7 will now come to order. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, ma'am. Chair Griffin,
Present.
Mr. Andrepont,
Here.
Mr. Brame,
Here.
Mr. Guidry, Mr. Hassan,
Here.
Dr. Mackey,
Present.
and Mrs. Trimming. I'm here. Do you have a quorum?
Number 3, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to the following requests from special service districts for grant funding from the Gaming Fund. 3-1.
Move on 3-1. Second.
I'll read it for the record. Ward 1 Fire Protection District Number 1, $5,100 for the purchase of 4 XTS handheld radios. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? If not, number 4 will carry. I have an agenda note. On March the 18th, 2010, the police jury awarded the district a grant in the amount of $12,000 for the purchase of a VHF radio repeater. The balance of $5,100 remains, and they are requesting to reallocate it towards the purchase of the radios. 3-2, Ward 2, Fire Protection District Number 1 of Ward 2 for $4,250 and matching funds for the purchase of radios and further approving a cooperative endeavor agreement.
Move on 3-2. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? If not, 3-2 will carry. 3-3, Ward 4, Recreation District Number 1 of Ward 4, $4,500 for the installation of underground electrical wiring at Ponderosa Park.
Move on 3-3.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any questions, concern? If not, 3-3 will carry. 3-4, Ward 4, Waterworks District Number 11 of Wards 4 and
Move on
7
3-4. Second.
for the amount of $11,136.84, matching funds for reimbursement of installation materials and labor. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or concerns? If not, 3-4 will carry. 3-5, Ward 4, Waterworks District Number 2 of Ward 4 for $35,000 for the residential iron water treatment startup costs and replacement of a water treatment plant flow meter.
Move on 3-5.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Do we have any questions? If not, 3-5 will carry. Consideration of making a recommendation with reference to approving a grant for matching grant funds in the amount of $2,000 for the from the HEART program for West
Move.
Cameron.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Mr. Andrepont?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Are y'all charging me with this $2,000? Because I wanted to take it out of the Ward 4.
I guess that's between you and your colleagues in Ward 4.
Well,
I think we agreed to
we,
it.
we agreed to do that.
that would be fine. Sure.
Okay. Since I'm broke anyway, I mean another.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, sir. Number 4 will carry. The agenda note, the City of Sulphur has agreed to provide matching funds in the amount of $2,000. And number 5, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to the approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the City of Westlake
Move on
for
5.
joint service
Second.
responses. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? If not, number 5 will carry. Any other matters for consideration? If not, we need a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Our meeting of the police jury Thursday, January 20th, 2011 to order. We'll have the invocation by Ms. Griffin, followed by the pledge. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that you have allowed for us to once again come before your throne of grace. We are petitioning to you tonight that you would be with us as we take care of business for these your people, and that you make us aware that the things we say and do tonight, that we shall be accountable to you for those things. And so we ask you for the right mind so that we will be pleasing in your sight. We ask for a special blessing on Calcasieu Parish, police jury, our people, our places, and our things. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be found acceptable in thy sight. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Mr. Anderpont?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnum?
Here.
Mrs. Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Hassan?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Dr. Mackey?
Present.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Spell?
Here.
Mr. Skelly?
Here.
Mr. Sias?
Present.
Mrs. Trimmy? Here. And President Brame.
Here.
Everyone's present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ask anybody in the audience that has a cell phone if they just put it to silent. Also, if anybody in the audience wants to speak on any item on the agenda tonight, fill out a blue slip that's located in the back and just bring it up front to Jessica. She'll get it to us up here. With that said, we'll go to item 5 is a 6 o'clock meeting action, so we will go to save that for 6 o'clock. We'll move to item 6. Presentation of a plaque to Mr. Lucas Terracina, Director of Mosquito Control, in recognition and appreciation of 35 years of service to the citizens of Calcasieu Parish. Mr. Bean.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are very honored tonight to be able to honor the distinguished career of Mosquito Control Director Lucas Terracina. After 35 years of service, Lucas is retiring from the parish. To put that in perspective, Gerald Ford was president when Lucas came on board in 1976. So there aren't many who've been around longer than that, and he's had such a great career here. I want to make a few comments, and then we'll have Lucas receive a plaque, say a few words, and give you a chance, of course, to express your appreciation. A little background on Lucas. After graduating with a degree in wildlife management from then USL, now ULL, Lucas started with mosquito control back in February of 1976. Now, back then, the department was barely a year old. And he actually left for a little while and went to Texas and then decided he needed to come back to Lake Charles and Calcasieu, so we're very happy about that. And when he did come back, he actually took the position of Assistant Mosquito Control Director in 1979. It wasn't long before his boss at that time, Bruce Craven, left for another position, and in fairly quick fashion, Lucas was offered the position of director by Administrator Rodney Vincent at that time, and the rest is history. We're glad he said yes. And that's going back to early 1980. Many of those years, of course, Lucas served under Mark McMurray, former administrator, and Mark is, I know how much he values Lucas's service and dedication to his work, and I wanted to pass that on his behalf because he thought the world of Lucas, and he did a great job here. Over the years, Lucas has navigated the department through many challenges. Many things such as the St. Louis encephalitis outbreak, West Nile, and over many years, just the increase in population throughout the rural areas of the parish. If you think about what mosquito control does, they've got to cover the whole parish, but many years ago, where a lot of people live now, nobody was there. And now there's a lot of residential density, and they've got to cover that too. So the job's gotten bigger and more complicated every year. Now, Lucas may have a different notion, but in my opinion, his finest hour was in the aftermath of Hurricane Rita, 2005. If y'all remember, it was hot. It was very hot, very sticky. And there were so many new breeding grounds created for mosquitoes from the winds and the debris. It was a major challenge. Lucas, of course, as always, rose to the occasion. He led a massive effort to get a handle on the mosquito problem, working with several state and federal personnel and resources to overcome that new threat. There were so many things after Rita we were dealing with. Mosquitoes weren't the only one, but I can tell you, for those of you, of course, who were here the first 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, that was one of many issues, and it was no minor problem. Not only did he do a great job right after Rita, he fought hard and was very persistent in lobbying Congress and Congressman John at the time. And he was successful at getting federal funds for mosquito control recovery needs here in the parish. Lucas has also been very active throughout his career in associations related to his field. I can't possibly take all the time to list every award he's got. We'd be here all night. But I want to mention a few key ones. And this shows you what his peers think about him, which is always a very important measuring stick. He served on the board and been president of the Louisiana Mosquito Control Association, which honored him with their highest award, which is called the Hathaway Ritter Lifetime Achievement Award. He also served for a period in the 90s as interim director for the American Mosquito Control Association, served many years on that board. He also received that association's award called the Medal of Honor, which is their highest award, presented from the association for exemplary service and leadership. And the list goes on and on. But more than those highlights, it is Lucas's day-to-day dedication, his steadiness, and his commitment to excellence that defines him. Lucas isn't flashy, he isn't brash, he just gets the job done. We know that, the people around the state know that, and indeed the people around the country know that. Lucas has contacts and is respected throughout the whole country in his field. Let me give you a couple of quotes from some of his peers around the state. I talked to two gentlemen that have a long-term relationship with Lucas. One is Matt Yates. He's the mosquito control director for East Baton Rouge Parish, and he and Lucas have served on many boards together. Mr. Yates says that Lucas is a remarkable individual, and he has a great ability to get to the heart of the matter. He works well with people at all levels and is an outstanding communicator. I am amazed at his ability to bridge gaps and bring people together. Chuck Palmisano, Mosquito Control Director for St. Tammany Parish, states that Lucas is a super individual, a good decision maker, and he always looks out for what's best for the parish. His enthusiasm for his work is as strong today as it was when he began in the field. Above all, he is trustworthy and a man of character. Hearing that from your peers really means a lot, and it tells you something about the man. High praise indeed. Even as recently as tonight, there's an item on your agenda to continue reciprocal service agreements with other parishes. That's been going on for many years, and Lucas built those relationships, as did they. It takes cooperation, but that just doesn't happen by accident. Lucas has been very instrumental in establishing these relationships, and he shares his time and talents with others freely. Now, I will say Lucas is known for keeping a clean shop. It's been rumored that you could eat dinner off the floors at Mosquito Control. It's also been said that Lucas would charge you for that dinner so he doesn't overspend his budget. I forgot to mention, Lucas, both guys mentioned the word frugal in their comments about you. But we pick on him, but he is a budget hawk in the finest sense of the word, but never sacrificing quality, and that's a tough thing to do. So at this time, I'm going to ask Lucas to come up. We're going to present you with a plaque for your dedicated years of service. And we just want to wish you all the best as you enter the next journey in your life, and thank you for your service to Calcasieu Parish.
Lucas, you've done a great job. My pleasure getting to know you, and we're going to miss you. Enjoy your retirement. Thank you.
He said I was a good communicator, but I think I'm lost for words right now. But it's been a long ride. It looks like just yesterday I started, and if anybody would have told me coming out of USL that I have 35 years working in a mosquito control program, I'd have laughed, because that wasn't my goal at that time, but it just worked out, and it's been a real pleasure being here. The support from the administration and the jurors has been tremendous, but you know, a lot of the things Brian talked about and a lot of the things that I had praise for wouldn't be possible without the guys that work for me. And if they'd stand up, a lot of them are here tonight. And you're only as good as the people you work with that work with you, and they deserve a lot of that acknowledgement, especially the part about the shop. I mean, people, you have to have pride in your workplace, and we have a lot of people that do that. And of course, being a public servant takes a lot of time away from your family, and of course, I've got to thank my wife. She's here. Jean. And I do have a son here, so the Terracina will stay around. I've got the young man behind the camera is my son. He's a mass communication major at McNeese, and I've been fortunate enough that the parish allowed him to do an internship, and he really loves it, working in that capacity. But public service is really something that is difficult on your families, because we missed a lot of vacation time and things like that, especially in mosquito control. You can't plan a summer vacation when you're on top. It's really difficult. It's been a little easier as we went along, and my staff is, you know, they're great. They pick up the slack, and we're able to get away. But in the early years, that was not possible. But the jury has been fabulous to us. They really have. All of y'all, all of the past jurors, and I've got to acknowledge a couple of them in particular. Mr. John Vaughn, he was my liaison for years, and of course Alan August. Alan, they were big, staunch supporters, and what we have right now is a lot due to their credit and their hard work in pushing us to get that. And then the whole support of the jury has just been fantastic. And of course, you can't work for better people than Rodney Vincent and Mark McMurray. I mean, I don't know how lucky I was to fall into where I was, because those people really knew the ropes, and I learned a lot, especially from Mark. Mark was a tremendous mentor. And I was awful green, because I came back as assistant director, and in 6 months I was director, and it was a whirlwind, and I had a lot to learn real fast. So, but it has been a good ride. I appreciate everything. Brian, you've got a good young man in Brian. I've enjoyed working with him and the other staff people. People here in Calcasieu need to know that they're extremely lucky to have the type of operations we have here. I see and work with other people from around the state, and we're very fortunate for what we have. And that's an acknowledgement to the fine people that we had on the jury over the years to recognize what's needed for the improvement. And mosquito control is one of the, I think, most important functions here in Calcasieu Parish, because of the diversity of the mosquito problem here. And without mosquito control, I don't think people could live the lives they live around here. So it's an important aspect, and I think you're in good hands for the future, and I'll keep it going. There's going to be a lot of challenges coming. There's a lot of regulatory challenges ahead for mosquito control, and it's going to alter some of the way we do business. But when I began, it was all manual. Now it's all computerized. So it's a lot more effective, a lot more efficient. And but I do appreciate it. It's been a privilege working here. And, I've really enjoyed my time. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Lucas. We have Mr. McMillan would like to say a few words.
Lucas, you're going to be definitely missed in Calcasieu Parish. I think people take for granted going out in a late afternoon on a summer day and not having mosquitoes biting them all the time, and you've done a great job. I can't say enough about the staff that you've built around you. I agree 100% with Brian when he said your finest hour was during Hurricane Rita. We had planes in that came in to help us spray, but you coordinated all that, and you kept the citizens that were in our parish safe, and you've done a great job in that. One of the things I found out about Lucas is that he can hear a mosquito, and he can tell you the species, and then pretty much tell you if it's a drake or a hen. And there's not many people that can do that. You know, it's quite a talent, and I hope he passes that on to some. And I don't know if y'all have noticed, but if you look at him kind of quick, he's so much in his 35 years of his job, he kind of looks like a mosquito. We'll never swat you, and we appreciate what you've done.
That.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. Ms. Trimmy.
Thank you. Lucas, thank you for everything. I've been here since 1992, and you just have the wonderful staff, but what I really love and appreciate is your heart and your spirit, and your heart and your spirit for the community. I see you have your son here. I know that you were involved in Little League and baseball and softball and everything to do with y'all's children. I mean, he would be the first one to volunteer to be the coach, and he was the one out there on the field with these kids, and from the time they were little, I'm sure, but I saw it as they got older, that you were always there for your family, and you were always there for your kids, just like you were always there for us. And if I would make a call and it's Friday night lights, everybody knows about Friday night lights, and everybody had to have their field sprayed before the Friday night game because of the mosquitoes and all the people that were going to be there. If it was Westlake Riders Club, if it was Shoe Peak, if it was West Cal Arena, if it was some kind of special occasion, whether it was a festival, whether it was anything to do in your lives that you've had, Lucas was there, making sure that it all went off without a hitch, and there was no danger. And you kept the danger away. And I know that you have trained a staff that is pretty awesome, and that they will be able to carry your flag and take your flag out of your hand and keep on going. But we'll never have the heart and the spirit. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your friendship.
Well, thank you very much. I've
The
enjoyed
quality
working
that
with you
you've
too.
given us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Size.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Lucas, you're all definitely going to be missed. Just like you and I talked earlier this afternoon, in the 3 years that I've been here, when I went and visited you once I became liaison, you gave me one grand tour. I mean, it was just like Brian said, that shop was clean. I mean, the information, the things that you guys do over there is really outstanding. You do a great job. I was really impressed with when you gave me this book. I did not know there was so many different types of mosquitoes. And he gave me this book, and he said, well, you take it and read it and everything. And I said, you're not going to be asking me questions about it when I bring it back and stuff like that, because there was quite a few different things, mosquitoes on there. And I appreciate the times that I know when I called you about certain issues that you really went out there and you jumped on it and you took real good care of it. But, like I said, I was really just impressed with the operation and the things that you guys do. And so I wish you well on your retirement.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Size. Mr. Bell.
Lucas, I wasn't able to work with you during the Gerald Ford administration, but I just want to say on behalf of the Ward 1 community and people of Calcasieu Parish, thank you.
Thank you.
Because the time that I did have to work with you, utmost professionalism, and I want to thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
Lucas, any other yours? Go ahead, Ms. Guidry.
Lucas, I can't say enough about you, and especially actually taking me to Baton Rouge on the plane time. That time. I'm picky, y'all. I am so picky, y'all. No, I got to know Lucas because our girls actually played softball together, and what Sandy said is exactly right. Lucas was always the first one out there and always the last one to leave, and I just want to say, since I've been here, Lucas, you've just been a joy to be around, and we are truly going to miss you. But Brian was talking about you as a stickler for your budget. The way you could possibly cut down a little bit on some of the air transportation, just don't spray Westlake. He was too hard on you, Lucas. He was too hard on you.
Thank you.
He was too hard on you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Bean.
would allow me the privilege, we wanted to take this opportunity to also announce that effective with Lucas' retirement, Mr. Scott Willis is going to be appointed Mosquito Control Director. Scott has been with the parish 22 years. He's been assistant for a long time. He's done a fantastic job. As Lucas pointed out, we have a great staff, and we'll have a new leader, and Lucas has put it in good hands, and we want to congratulate him on the new position.
Thank you. Scott, you want to come up to the mic and introduce yourself to those that don't know you, and give us your cell number?
Well, my name's Scott Willis, and I've been working with Lucas for 20-something years, and, we, like you said, we have a good staff, and I've learned a lot about mosquito control and providing the services that we do provide for the parish, and we're looking forward to continuing to do that. And, you know, it's a privilege to be able to do that, and I'm looking forward to working with you and all the people that, you know, at Mosquito Control are too. So, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to kind of carry the flag and keep going. And so, looking forward to doing that.
Thank you, Scott.
Congratulations.
Okay, we're going to move up item 23, and then we'll come back to our 6 o'clock. Item 23, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the city of Sulphur for location, design, and construction of an North I-10 frontage road in Sulphur beginning at Root Street, running westerly from approximately 1 mile.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Hassan. Do I have any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item carries. Okay, now we'll go back. We'll go ahead and take up item number 7. Okay, item number 7, take appropriate action on application for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Vickers.
Mr. President, we have one application, recommend it be approved.
Move to approve.
Okay, have a motion by
Second.
Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Anderpont. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 8, consideration of approval all payments.
Move on 8.
All second invoices. Motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 9, consideration of approving the minutes of the regular
Second.
meeting of the police jury dated December 16, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Size, a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 10, consideration of approving the minutes of the special meeting of the police jury dated December 28, 2010. I have a motion by Mr. Fornham and a second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 11, consideration of approving the General Insurance Committee report dated January 20th, 2011. Mr. Anderpont.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be as brief as I possibly can. We did meet this afternoon, presented by Mr. Milner. Plan recommendations for 2011-2012, and I'll briefly read them into the record. Traveler's package at $263,284, which includes law enforcement liability, employment practices, management liability, business auto liability, crime, and identity fraud. Essex for auto physical damage, $39,335. New York Marine as the excess carrier for the workman's compensation policy at $63,655, and the security bond with Midwest for $8,250. Lloyd's of Maritime Employers Liability at $4,620, and for terrorism property, $20,475. Zurich at $11,771 for boiler machinery. And finally, Westchester for aviation coverage, $24,762. It was presented to the committee this afternoon. It was recommended that we accept their recommendation. And at this time, as chairman, I would move that we do so.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderpont. And I have a second by Ms. Trimmy. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 12, consideration of approving the Budget Committee report dated January 20, 2011. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget Committee met this afternoon at 5 p.m. The following items are being presented to the police jury for full approval. And that's 3-1 Ward 1, Ward 1 Fire Protection District Number 1 for $5,100 for the purchase of 4 XTS handheld radios. 3-2 Ward 2 Fire Protection District Number 1 of Ward 2, $4,250 matching funds for purchase of radios. 3-3 Recreation District Number 1 of Ward 4, $4,500 for the installation of underground electrical wiring at the Ponderosa Park. 3-4 Ward 4 Waterworks District Number 11 of Wards 4 and 7 for $11,136.84, matching funds for reimbursement of installation materials and labor. And 3-5 Ward 4 Waterworks District Number 2 of Ward 4 for $35,000 for residual iron water treatment and startup costs and replacement of a water treatment plant flow. And number 4, we also bring to you for consideration making a recommendation with reference to approving a request for matching funds in the amount of $2,000 for the from the HART program for West Cal. I need a motion to accept.
So moved. Second. Have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second.
On number 5, also, sir, consideration of making a recommendation with reference to the approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the city of Westlake for a joint sponsorship for the 211 Southwest Louisiana Open Adams Gulf Pro Tour. We need a motion to approve also.
Okay. Put that in your motion, Dr. Mackey? Yeah. Okay. Have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Hassan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion?
Discussion on, just real quick on items 3.4 and 3.5, that's going to come from the large riverboat gaming fund of Ward 4. Just want to make a note of that.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan.
I wouldn't want them to take it out of Ward 3.
Thank you.
I'm glad you clarified it.
Any objection? Hearing none, that item carries. Just take a real quick second to recognize Mike Kuntz from Sulphur City Council. Thank you for being here, Mike. Okay, we'll go to item 13, consideration adopting a resolution authorizing Waterworks District Number 14 of Ward 5 of Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, to proceed with the development of a project involving issuance of not exceeding $563,000 excess revenue certificates of indebtedness and
So
further
moved.
authorizing
Second.
an application to the Louisiana State Bond Commission and other matters with respect thereto. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Ms. Griffin. Do we have any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 14 is no action necessary. Item 15, consideration of adopting an ordinance to clarify the legal description contained in ordinance number 5888,
Move on 15.
which was adopted on December 16, 2010, and which was rezoned property at 2930 Old Highway 171. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. And we'll go ahead and go to item 5 for our 6 o'clock action. Item 5, we'll hold a public hearing at 6 p.m. as a result of notice provided to the owners of properties described below in accordance with Article 2, Chapter 6 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Calcasieu, Louisiana, ordering said owners to show cause and to why the structures in said properties should not be condemned. 514337 Queen Street. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. Our first structure is in the Mossville area. This is going to be one house. The owner of record is the Willie Taylor Estate, and we recommend this structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? If not, is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. 5-1 carries. 321 Dalton Road, Westlake area. Mr. Robinson.
Yes, this is one manufactured home. The owner is Charles Lee Bergeron, Sr. et al. We recommend this structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5-2 carries. 5-3, 6010 Benny Lane, South Lake Charles area. Mr. Robinson.
This is one house. The owner is Ray G. and Cynthia B. Harrington Revocable Living Trust. And our recommendation is this structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
I'm going to make a motion to defer for 30 days, but I'd like Mr. Harrington to come up to the podium right quick.
Second.
I need a second on the motion. Okay. State your name and address for the record, please.
Ray Harrington, 2323 Country Club Road, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Mr. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, me and Mr. Harrington have spoke several times throughout the past few months, and we've come to an agreement. Mr. Harrington, you realize that I appreciate the progress you've made in cleaning up the property. You know, it's definitely helping the neighborhood, but at this time we're going to extend to you the same courtesy that we've done to the majority of the people at this point. We're going to give you 30 days to go out there and make extreme progress. I mean, it needs to be boarded up. It's going to have to start looking good. You're going to have to get your permits pulled. So at this point, you'll get the same 30 days that we've given anyone else to really move forward with some serious progress at this point in order for... Now, you're taking this into your own hands. In 30 days, when you come back, if there's not enough progress, then whatever you spend on it, if this jury decides, then it will be condemned. So are you all right with that 30 days?
I believe I can make enough progress in the 30 days to
All right.
appreciate you have where y'all appreciate it.
So you're going to make sure you get with Mr. Thibodeau, Mr. Vickers, whoever you need to make sure you get the right permits, you get everything moving.
Yes, sir. I've already talked to them. I shared with you. I was going to get the permits, and they recommended me to wait to talk to y'all before I, possibly, bought the permits for nothing.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Harrington. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Okay, Mr. Landry.
It appears that work is already being done on that. That work's being done without permits, Mr. Robinson. Is that what's going on?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that this can be, I mean, of course, there again, it's the same situation. I don't think that house can be saved. That's going to cost a lot of money to fix that. But, I mean, you're willing to do that? You're going to spend that much money on this structure?
Well, I don't think that it's in as bad a shape as y'all say it is. I mean, we're.
I mean, I got a picture right here. One room, I can see the ground. There's a hole in the floor.
It was sir. It was a trailer before. I took the trailer out. It was a trailer that they built a house around. People do that.
Okay.
And that's why I took.
I hope you understand what was said. He's going to make a motion to give you another 30 days, but if in 30 days it comes back and you've spent all that money in that 30 days and it still looks similar to what you got here and it's still open, I mean...
Sir, I'll tell you what, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the outside. Okay, I'm not going to work on the inside till probably after the 30 days, I believe... we're going to make the outside appear good. I mean, I know I can't complete the house in 30 days. I know that. I mean, me and Mr. Scott has already talked about this. But I think I can get to where the outside appearance on the house is going to be closed up. It's going to look, presentable with the neighborhood. We ain't talking about a real elaborate neighborhood here now. I mean, it's not a bad neighborhood, but it's not country club,
All right, I just want to make sure, because I've seen people that's done this, and then 30 days, they spent $4,000 or $5,000. They come back and gets condemned. It's like throwing the money away.
I believe the people, I own several pieces of property, and I work for a living. I don't not work. I have family, and
thank you, Mr.
I'll get some outside people to help me.
Mr. Scott, you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Harrington, just remember, that is a country club to somebody. They're the people that live there consider that their country club, and it's a nice neighborhood, and there's people who have put everything they have into that neighborhood. So this is your rental property. So you got 30 days. Let's get it looking good. Let's get it up to code. So in 30 days, you're going to come back here, and whatever you've done in 30 days is going to be the telltale sign. I've always told you, progress
Okay.
is what's going to make the, is what's going to help. So
Well,
30 days.
Mr. Scott, I'm gonna be talking to you, and I'm gonna be spending some money, and I'm gonna make it look good.
Okay. Well, get your permits and get busy.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
All
that.
right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for y'all hearing me.
Mr. Harrington, hang on one second. Go.
She's my daughter, okay?
May I speak?
Just
My
state your name and address for the record. Yes, ma'am.
Leslie Matern, 2442 Emily Ann Lane, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Leslie Matern, 2442 Emily Ann Lane, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70605.
Thank
you. I'm his daughter. The question I'd like, I help him on a lot of his properties, or I'm starting to. What are your expectations within 30 days? So I'm clear.
You want to answer that, Mr. Scott? Or Mr. Robinson, actually.
Well, I can tell you my expectation because I'm going to be the one that's in 6 months now is when I started talking to Mr. Harrington, and he's done well cleaning the property. But what he's not done is really make progress on getting it safe. He started working on it outside of when they wanted him to. He was allowed for demolition, but there's been some things going on there that are just wrong. So get the permits, get moving, and in 30 days there's got to be progressive progress, not the one guy that's been. There's going to have to be some progress, Mr. Harrington, and that's going to be up to you to decide. You're going to have to decide what you think is going to be enough. I can't tell you I want to see vinyl siding on the. That's not going to be progressive enough for me. It's been here for years. It's been moving, steadily downhill in this neighborhood, and the people have been very patient. But at this point, you're going to have to get busy on it now. 30 days, it's going to have to look way different than this. That's what progress is.
Okay. And I'd just like to state for the record that during these last few months, there were several other properties that we were working on that I don't know if you're aware of, but I know that other people in the parish and the city has been aware of. So it's not like he's done nothing. I just would like for the record for it to.
Well, I appreciate that, but 6010 Benny Lane's on tonight, so that's the.
No,
one
I
that
understand, but I just wanted you to know that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Guidry. Mr. Harrington, would you like to come back up? Mr. Guidry, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Harrington, I just want to say we appreciate the work that you've done, and we know that you're doing your best at trying to get the property back up to where it's livable and it's where it's decent for the community and all. But I'm just concerned that you may not be a little bit clear on what we're saying, because Mr. Landry expressed to you about the 30 days. What's the amount of money you planning on spending to get this mobile home to where it's going to be livable?
Sir, it's not a mobile home. Okay, it was a mobile home that they added a house to it.
Okay.
Now I took the mobile home out of it. It's a house. Okay. Why I'm spending so much time on it? My idea. I guess I'm from the old school. I don't think very much about a mobile home. I like.
But what's your dollar amount that you're looking to spend to get it to where it's livable again? That's what I'm asking.
Probably 10,000, 15,000, something like that.
Okay. Now, you do understand what Mr. Scott is saying, because it's happened before. There's been people that have stood exactly where you're standing tonight, and they've come back in 30 days and have spent $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 on property, and we've condemned it. So we just want to make sure, Mr. Aaron, that you understand, and your daughter Leslie, we just want to make sure, that you're in agreement with what we're talking about, because we're not up here to be bad people or nothing, but, there is something that's been on the books for quite some time now, and we just want to make sure that you have that understanding that 30 days, and, you got to look at the weather. You got to count those days that maybe you can't work on it. Do you have anybody that's going to be helping you on this property, Mr.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have some.
Well, we just want to do what's going to be best for you, but we just want you to understand that 30 days is going to come quick.
Okay. At the end of this 30 days, we decide that I have to condemn it. We're going to condemn it. Y'all give me another 30 days to demolition it, or what? What do y'all do? What's the process then?
Yes. Yes.
I didn't hear you.
Yes, Ray.
Yes.
He will.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna look at this deal real good. It is a big job.
We don't want you to invest that much money and see that you can't
Well,
Get it back to where
okay,
it's going to be livable.
this is the one thing, okay? If I there's a whole lot of difference in the price of a piece of property with a house on it
Right.
than a piece of property without a house on it.
I agree.
I mean, you know, it's hard for me to get over there and, you know, tear that house down and then sell the property where it ain't, or move a mobile home on it or something. I mean, it's just it's just too much money that I would lose.
We just want to make sure that we're giving you the time that you think you need to get that finished, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have another speaker, Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just suggest, Ms. Matern, you said that you're helping him with the property. I would suggest that you get with our planning department, and they will give you a list here. There's a list of all the problems. That way you'll have it on paper and maybe get with him and as soon as you can determine whether it's
Who's
going
this,
to be working
Mr.,
or not. But it's in
Mr.
black
Robinson?
and white. I mean, it's not going to be, there's no guess about what needs to be done. It's all here. So you get with Mr. Robinson, and he'll give you that list, and then you'll know exactly what needs to be done.
It is my understanding that if he's made significant progress, they will extend the time for him to work on it, correct?
Yes.
It would definitely help if you drive down the street and you don't see what you see now. It would appear that it would be done, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Collins, you still have something to say?
Yes, sir. I just want to say that this house can be saved. I work on these kind of houses like that every day. And looking at this paper, it look bad. But when you go out there on the property and see the house for yourself, it's a whole lot different. And he can do a lot of work to that house in 30 days. I know because I've done work like this and I'm still doing it. But he can save that house. All you got to do is get out there and work on it.
Yes, sir.
And he can't give you a dollar amount sitting here because he doesn't know the price of the lumber right at hand. And furthermore, he can save money by doing the work himself because I do it every day. And we just need to give the man some time because what we're looking at this paper here, it look bad because that's a picture. But you get out there and look at the property, you're going to see a different story. But just keep working and we'll work with you.
Yeah, I sure do. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bram?
Yes, sir.
I mean, me and Mr. Robinson, we've worked together on different projects. I mean, you know, it's not a problem that we and him can't work together. Cause I think he's a fine gentleman, you know, him and Mr. Hooper. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Ray.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay, I have a motion to defer for 30 days from Mr. Scott and a second by Mr. McMillan. Do I have any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5-3 carries. We go to 5-4, 1054 Armator Road, Carlos area. Mr. Robinson.
This is one house. The owner is Ernest C. Hill Jr., and we recommend this structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
So move.
The motion by Mr. Landry. Second by Mr. Hassan. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this item? Seeing none. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll go to 5.5. That's 579 Bankins Road, North Sulphur area. Mr. Robinson.
This is one manufactured home. The owner of this structure is Archie Roy Draper Sr. At Ux, we recommend the structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak on this item? Seeing none, item 5.5 will carry. We'll go to item 5.6. 2006 Peetsay Road, Carlos area. Mr. Robinson.
This is one manufactured home. The owner is a John Stanley Jewett, and we recommend this structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just double checking here. We have the address is 2006 Peetsay Road. On the parcel listing, it shows the physical address is 2022. Does that present a problem?
No, because a lot of times the tax
It's
assessor
several
ha-
lots on one.
Right, and
Okay.
and sometimes the tax assessor is not always right.
Okay.
Do we have any discussion on that item? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll go to 5-7, 3534 Palm Drive, North Sulphur area. Mr. Robinson?
This is one manufactured home with an addition. The owner is Clifford Lee Newman. We recommend this structure be condemned and removed in 30 days.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak on it? Seeing none, we have any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
We'll go to item 16, I think is where we left off. Okay, consideration of adopting an ordinance amending ordinance number 5889 of the Code of Ordinance of Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, to include language as requested by FEMA as it pertains to floodplain management regulations associated with adoption of the maps as follows. Then I have a motion. Motion by Mr. Sines,
Second.
second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 17.
Mr. President?
I just won't read 17. Mr. McMillan, go ahead.
Thank you. Due to the Budget Committee passing the money that we needed for the Mossville water system and during the Budget Committee, there will be no action necessary on this item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McMillan. Item 17, no action. We'll go to item 18. Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application in the amount of $20,000 to the Louisiana Office of Community Development Community Water Enrichment Fund on behalf of Waterworks District Number 8 of Ward 3 and 8.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Staley and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 18 carries. Item 19, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application in the amount of $18,000 to the Louisiana Office of Community Development Community Water Enrichment Fund on behalf of Waterworks District Number 14 of Ward 5. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 23 we've already done. Now let's see. I'm sorry, item 20. Consideration of adopting a resolution.
Move on 20.
Approving revised lease agreements with various tenants currently occupying office space in the 901 Lakeshore Drive building at the Magnolia building. I have a motion by Mr. Fornum. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 20 carries. Item 21.
Move on 21.
Second.
Consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the parish administrator to negotiate the terms and conditions of a lease agreement for office space on the third floor of a certain portion of the fourth floor of the 901 Lakeshore building. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Ms. Griffin.
Question. Thank you, sir. Mr. President, I'll direct this to Mr. Bean. Brian, on number 29, we'll be coming to that, but we're going to be discussing a resolution approving a contract. Now, I'm on 29 because it's going to relate to 21, okay? So we're going to approve a contract for professional services. Now, this company that you're going to approve, are they the ones that set the fees for what we're doing on 21? How are the fees negotiated by? Do you have something standard to go by? Or do our contracts that we use for our buildings that we lease or rent out, are those contracts delivered from what you have received from these professional services, or is that new?
Let me address both. It's really a two-part answer, and it's a timely question. If you look at number 20, we actually, through Alan Smith and Jennifer Tomplay here of our office, they've worked diligently to standardize these leases.
Okay.
And so that's what 20 was, so that it's consistent. And there is a going rate, if you will. This other one on 29 that's coming up later It's totally separate. It's more for assistance with all of our buildings and how we utilize space, mainly in the courthouse complex. So it's really two different things.
I'm aware that it's two different things, but when I was looking at just where we're talking about our buildings, and that's why I asked. I guess what I'm wanting to know is that when you go out and rent or lease any properties for Calcasieu Parish, are you using the suggestions or these professional services, the criteria that they set, or do you go out and do that yourself with our legal attorney?
It's directly just with us, but our staff has done had a lot of conversations with the.
So
the answer is we have a market. It's sort of a market rate approach. So it's both.
So your standards are met when we lease by something that's standardized for all of our properties, contingent upon the space and the building and the location. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So 21 is related to 29. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will carry. We'll move to item 22, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the renewal of a cooperative endeavor agreement
Move on
between the
22.
police jury and the
Second.
Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office for the use of a full-time deputy for litter enforcement activities. Have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Ms. Trimmie. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Farnham.
I have a question for Brian. This might be a good time to bring up, since it's all kind of related, our drop-off centers. What's the status on that?
We actually were going to. I was talking with Alan about that earlier this week to get a memo out with an update. It's really in the process of discussions with DEQ, just on what would be involved doing those on our own property, which we're really hoping to do, versus going out to another site or two. And we're hoping it's a lot simpler from a regulatory permitting stance. And so that's where it is today. And I'll let Alan fill in any blanks, but we're hopeful to call that first committee meeting of the Solid Waste Committee probably by mid-February. And we'll have more on that issue, as well as the status of and your direction as far as that RFP for the overall residential contract.
Do we kind of have an estimated date of what we'd like to start these things online?
I'll defer to Alan maybe if he's got an estimate on that.
We don't have a date at this moment. We actually are meeting with Billy Akins, DEQ, Thursday of next week. One of our most important meetings to finalize the permitting process. Obviously, that's going to control the deadline. We have conceptual plans drawn. Part of the memo that Brian's discussing, we were going to send you out some ideas, our site locations, and some of the concepts that we have there, give you some feedback, and also to advise that we were going to try and get that first solid waste committee going soon. We have a lot of things in that RFP for the service to work out. So it's making progress. It's sort of behind the scenes right now, but it is making progress. We've been getting a lot of calls from a lot of citizens, probably the same as you. It is our goal to have those centers up and running this year. The construction and the design process is not that elaborate. It's going to be the permitting process we're going to try and get through.
I know I'm starting to get several questions from residents wondering when these things are going to be online. We voted on this, or they voted on it, and we all voted on it last fall. And they're just kind of getting a little antsy. They want a place to go drop their stuff off.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear the eagerness of the citizens out there. I think, again, the revenue and the funds and things to operate these will come in with these sales tax dollars collected this year to be used next year. So in keeping with some of our patterns here at the police jury, I think we would have been targeting getting them open at the end of this year, maybe ahead of our normal spending habits. But if you look at the patterns we've normally traveled, that collect the money this year and spend it next year, we would be in the same mode of operations if we met that goal.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Mr.
President.
Barnum. Mr. Scott.
Jason, Jason Barnes.
Jason, just state your name and position with the jury.
Jason Barnes, Special Programs Coordinator.
Yeah, I was just curious how this is going. We're going to be increasing this anytime with the sheriff department, and the second part of the question is, how could we get the reserve deputies on board with this? Is that an area you could talk with the sheriff with? Because a lot of the reserve deputies, as they're out and about doing their things, it's not in their uniforms, but yet I'm sure they could still write a litter ticket for all these cigarette butts hitting the ground and trash being thrown out right in front of them. Is that something we can look into?
Sure. The answer to your first part of the question was our continued relationship and working with the litter enforcement officer. And, you know, every year we continue to sort of make little fine tweaks to how we work with that individual and everything. And we've discussed that, and it seems to be working very effectively. In fact, I met with Officer Dent this afternoon, and we spoke about a couple of sites that we actually have some enforcement cameras on, and he gave me some updates on some things with that. So I'm really eager and optimistic to see the results for this year with his performance and our relationship with the Sheriff's Department overall. With the respect to the reserve officers, we actually already use them once a month for what is known as a litter blitz, where we will actually go and have an area like a parking lot or something in that or park, and we will watch and give citations to people who litter there on the spot. So that's a work in progress. I think we'd like to see a little bit more of interaction with them in the future, but we've already started it, and I think it's only going to continue to climb from that point on.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Landry?
I was just going to point out, back to some of what Les was asking there. I mean, we're talking about running that facility. It's going to be paid for with sales tax dollars, but the facility itself is going to be built with gaming funds, which should already be there. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's going to move forward, and that facility is going to be built long before the end of the year, I would think.
The construction of the facility, Mr. Landry, is like I said, actually quite easy. It's getting the permits to operate it, and that's sort of going to be more complex than anything.
Well, the drawings that I saw, there was a building there, was there not?
There's a small guard shack. It's not very sophisticated, just something to get out of the weather. Not a complicated structure.
So when do you expect that to be built?
We won't build until we have the permits in hand for the
Correct.
sites that we're at. I mean, if we build at our existing facilities, for instance, we have a water system nearby. We have some things that are just going to be complicated to permit, but we feel like it's going to be more expedient to go that route than to try and acquire land, get it zoned, go through all those hurdles, and construct. So our first effort, again, we're meeting with DEQ Thursday. We're hoping for some really good answers there, and you know, the doors may open wide open Thursday evening for us.
So you would, I guess you're telling me for sure by the end of the year it will be up and running.
Nothing's
I don't
for
wanna
sure
put you
when
on
you're
the spot,
dealing.
but yeah, I kinda do.
Nothing's for sure when you're pulling permits from the state.
Let me jump in. Maybe, Alan, you could answer. I think because that is out of our control, let me just say it is a high priority. But maybe it would help, Alan, if you could say at the point of approval of a permits, if it were on our property, what time frame do you anticipate it taking to go through the construction process? Because that really is that's within our control.
At the East Maintenance Facility, for instance, you probably have a 60-day construction time, and really there's nothing much to construct, a mound to drive up on, to empty your trash into the containers, a small guard shack that's actually something you'll buy ready-made. You know, it's changed up the gate situations, lights, a few little things like that, not very complicated. On the east side, for instance. On the west side at that facility, it's much tighter. We're looking at options with Post Oak Pavilion. We have some things there we need to work out at that site. If, for instance, that site won't work from a DEQ standpoint, a zoning standpoint, we'll have to locate other sites.
buying and the process for purchasing sites is going to be, that's not easily done. I don't think anyone, it's just going to be tougher to buy a site if we have to.
I mean, we want to make sure this is convenient for people.
Yes, sir.
We don't want to just put it on property because we own I mean, not that I want to go out and waste money and buy more property, but if at the end of the day it's not convenient and no one's using it, then what's the point of doing it to begin with? I mean, it's going to have to be in a convenient location to where people are going to use it.
I agree with you, especially the west side. That's just a block off of the interstate, a major intersection. I would believe that the Carlos location, all of the residents there, that's the middle of the west side, and then our east maintenance facilities also, just off of the interstate at a very good location. Also, locating them at our facilities will keep the costs down when we can utilize our resources. People who are already working at our facilities to run and manage this without having to add staff and everything else. We'll be able to keep them cleaner. They'll be right there amongst us. So we have a strategy. We just need to get through the permitting process.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. McMillan?
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. I like your idea and your strategy, but if you do change that strategy and it goes to a different site, would you keep us informed on the west side, please? I'd like for our west side jurors to have some input on where it might be.
Yes, sir. I think we would have, like I say, the solid waste committee meetings where we were going to show you some layouts. We wanted to get past this first meeting with DEQ to have some positive feedback from them, hopefully. With that, if you don't like those sites, it's surely y'all's call to tell us to look somewhere else.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Wainwright, on the sites, are you already at least looking for, having a contingency plan? Are you beginning to look at other sites now instead of waiting?
Yes, sir. I've been looking for quite some time. I have some spots in mind. The buying process, you know our buying process. It'll take a little time, and with that, it'll delay everything. So I would rather not do that, in all honesty. But if it comes to that, we will.
All right. And I appreciate, trying to do it with the people we have, the land we have. It's just saving taxpayers' money. And on the other end of that, we've spoke with Cameron Parish several times with some of the different jurors and Ms. Horn and stuff, and they've always gave interest in wanting to help us whatever avenue we needed, if it was information or whatever. So have you been able to contact them, or can you contact them and see, maybe the permit process isn't as long as having to wait, but maybe they've got some insight to help kind of channel through there a little?
Over the years, I've spoken with their superintendents and those guys a number of times as being one of the main. I feel like I've been interested in these sites for quite some time. So I think we're ready. We're expecting a good meeting with Billy next week. And with that, we'll be able to give you all some results from that meeting.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Go ahead, Mr. Anderpont.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do y'all know how much land you're talking about here?
It's actually not much. 2 or 3 acres you can get one of these in. Really talking about a U-shaped turnaround. The conceptual plans we have, I think, are laid out on 5 acres, and that really just gives you a little bit of expansion room for some additional special services there. If you got into recycling, something like that, where you might need a little more space. The police jury has other properties too. I think these were just the most convenient,
5 acres would probably suffice to do what you need to do then.
Yes, right. And so those pieces of property are available. I think we will get further into zoning issues, things like that.
It was just a matter of information for me in case somebody would ask.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Anderpont. Mr. Hassan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Alan, the permitting, is that for basically storing it, putting it on the ground?
Yes, sir. And I'm not an expert. Of course, that's why we're meeting with Billy. But when you get into this level of collection, transfer stations, things like that, they have stepped up regulations for that, and really it's to protect, I guess, everyone. But these sites are very simple, and I think we're going to be fine.
My question is, on a interim basis, if we can, whether it's just putting stuff into roll-off boxes, yard waste, household waste, putting it into roll-off boxes to be hauled off, does that require a permit?
Yes, sir, I believe so. I think that's exactly the permit I'm looking for.
Much like it's done on any trash bash day at any of the
Yeah, individual special events, you can pull special permissions for those things too. But in this case, we're talking about a permanent public facility. We need to take time to get our permits.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Been a while. Okay, we're going to go to item 24. Consideration of adopting a resolution
Second.
approving the renewal of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Police Jury, Mosquito Control Department, and the City of New Orleans, East Baton Rouge Parish Mosquito and Rodent Control, St. Tammany Mosquito Abatement District Number 2, and Tangipahoa Mosquito Control, which provides the reciprocal area mosquito control services between parties. I have a motion by Mr. Sias and a second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Move to item 25, consideration of
125
approving
all
the
bullets.
following request from the Office of Juvenile Justice Services. I have a motion, is that a motion on all bullets? By Mr. Andrew Pont and a second by Ms. Griffin. And I'll go ahead and read the bullets in the record. 25-1, adopt a resolution of approving contracts between the Police Jury, Office of Juvenile Justice Services, and the Family and Youth Counseling Agency Incorporated in the amount of $25,000. Item 25-2, adopt a resolution authorizing submittal of a continuation grant application and any revisions thereafter in the amount up to $15,000 to the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund for child abuse prevention efforts. And bullet 25-3, adopt a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application in an amount of up to $165,000 to the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation Models for Change Initiative to be the lead entity to assist in the development of the statewide juvenile detention standards. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 26, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an agreement between the Police Jury, Medical Reserve Corps, and the National Association of County and City Health Officials for a grant in the amount of $5,000. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Sias. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 27, consideration of adopting a resolution proclaiming February 4th, 2011 as Spade Day USA 2011 throughout Calcasieu Parish, and further authorizing the Department of Animal Services and Adoption Center to reduce the cost of spays and neuters of all animals adopted from the Center for the week of January 31st, 2011 through February 4th, 2011 in honor of Spade Day USA. I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 28, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract for architectural services between the Police Jury and Moss Architects, Inc., for the plans and specifications related to the Southwest
So
Region
moved.
5 Corners Office Generator Project. I have a motion
Second.
by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 29, consideration of adopting a resolution approving
Move.
a contract for professional services between the Police Jury and SSA Consultants to perform a space usage analysis for various parish buildings. I have a motion by Mr. Andrepont and a second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion?
Discussion.
Go ahead, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you. Mr. Bean,
Yes, ma'am.
with this consultant, will we have to upgrade or renew this contract with them, or is it one time or every year, just one time? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 29, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract for professional services between the Police Jury. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Can I blame that on my vice president? Okay.
I'll give you a second on it even.
All right.
That is my fault. Item number 30.
Item number 30, consideration of authorizing the parish administrator to advertise for bids for construction of a new metal building and repair of other buildings at CPPJ Mosquito Control. I have a motion by Dr. Andrew.
You missed that boat by a long
Mr. Andrew, second by Dr. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. That was kind of funny. Item 31, take appropriate action on bids received by the parish purchase agent on January 4, 2011 for lawn and ground maintenance. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. I'm going to just read the little agenda note. The staff recommends that the proposal be awarded complete as per all specifications to Landscape Management Services, Inc. Item 32, consideration of adopting a resolution.
Move on 32.
Condolences to the family of Mr. James L. Hawk Herford. Okay, wait. Go ahead, Dr. Mackey.
I would like first also to, for Gwen Bergere, the wife of former police juror Al Bergere, passed away recently, and I would like to ask for a resolution of condolence for their family too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. Mr. McMillan, go ahead.
Thank you. As you all know, we lost a great leader in the parish, Hawk Herford, who was over 20 years the chief of police for the city of Westlake. He'll be sorely missed by all of the citizens of Westlake as well as Southwest Louisiana, and we wanted to give his family this condolence. Also, Hawk had recently served on the port board, where he was doing a great job for us over there. So, Hawk Herford, just a real sudden death and just a real void for our citizens. And I want to make sure that his family knows how much we all love Hawk in Southwest Louisiana. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also, we would like to ask the staff to do some kind of condolences to our own Jean Augustine family.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
And just for the record, the viewing of the body will be tomorrow evening, 2 viewings, and the funeral is scheduled for Saturday at her father's church that he pastored on Prater Street. Thank you.
Mr. McMillan. Mr. Bean?
Mr. Griffin covered it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffin. I have a personal point of privilege by Mr. McMillan. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I don't know. I know a number of jurors got calls after last night's news media that the city of Lake Charles was going up on the sexual predators out there on their fees, and a lot of people that called me were nervous that they would just move these folks into the parish, that they, when the city of Lake Charles going up, they would just locate in Westlake or Benton or DeQuincy or another town. So we wanted to look at what maybe we could do parish-wide to make sure that our effort can be something to complement what they've done at the Lake Charles City Council to make sure that we have these same type fees. I'd called and left a message for Alan Smith earlier today, and I just maybe ask if we put it on committee night, and maybe our staff could get back with us.
Go ahead, Mr. Bean.
I'll address that, Mr. McMillan. Yes, I mentioned it to Ed and, of course, Alan. We want to look at the legalities of that. It's an obvious concern and a good question. Where local government versus state or federal government can get involved here. Obviously, the city passed that. I don't know if because they have a city charter, if there's something that allows them to do that separate, but we want to very quickly check the legalities, and we'll report back to you. And then you can decide with what your options may be on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Point of personal privilege, Mr. Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the jury, I'm sure you read the paper this morning where the state has rejected the proposal for the lighting on the I-10 bridge. I'm really not happy about that issue for several reasons. Number one, we've been kicking this football around now for years. We were going to bear the brunt of the funds of lighting that bridge. For the life of me, I just do not understand, after all these years, how we can make a presentation and it's being denied or it's not good enough. I don't know the whole issue. Apparently, the city of Lake Charles has been handling that. That's the way I understand it, number one. It just absolutely bewilders me that we cannot move forward on a bridge that has as much traffic on a daily basis as that one does. That is the only bridge that I know of that is not lighted. Go to Baton Rouge, go to New Orleans, go to Monroe, go to wherever, and all those bridges are lighted, and we can't seem to take one step forward and do the right thing for the people who use that bridge. Now, I don't know where our legislative delegation has been through all this quagmire. I've not seen one come here and say they're going to try to help us move forward and trying to getting something done. I guess the question is, coming in through the back door, were you surprised to hear that this morning, or did you know something about it? I mean, Brian, let me tell you something. I am not happy over this thing, because we've been talking about this issue for years and years now, and it's time to quit talking and try to do something about this thing.
Yes, I'll address that, Mr. Andrew Pont. I spoke to John Cardone today with the city. The reason that came up at their meeting, they got a formal letter, I believe, yesterday during the day, officially from DOTD, that the plan, I think the word was inadequate, and it's got to do with the type of lighting. We had an inkling that was possible, but that's why it was so, looks like it's kind of out of the blue. They got a formal notice. That's why I called Mr. Cardone, and we've already, earlier today, they're going to be here next week. We're putting this on the Public Works Committee agenda on the 27th to give you an update, and they'll give a background, and it can be explained better. And they are going to try, as well as we would ask y'all to be involved too, to help with the delegation to try to work with DOT to get that pushed through however it's designed. It's a design engineering issue at the state level. We would also use that opportunity to give you the information Mr. Connors looked up on the I-210 bridge that you had requested just to look into the cost and what would be involved. So we would put both of those next Thursday on your Public Works Committee and have the city here directly, and they can give you some more detailed information.
Well, putting it lightly, understatement, I've really got heartburn over this thing, because I'm telling you, it just does not make sense to me how we can procrastinate over an issue that is as important as that one. That being said, I got one more item.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes, sir.
I would like for you to set up a meeting with the Ward 4 jurors at some point in time to discuss the possibility of having maybe a satellite office at the Public Works Department for our permits, where all these people are having to come to Lake Charles to buy a $100 permit, where maybe we could set something up over there to save this traffic over the bridge, since there's no lights on it.
There you go.
Would you do that, please, sir? I'm not requesting that. Contractors on the west side are requesting that, and I'm just conveying. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew Pant. Mr. Guidry.
Yeah, just real quick. Brian, would it be something that we would want to look into for us for getting along the lines of what Mr. Andrew Pont talked about? Because you're looking at a bridge that doesn't have any shoulder. I mean, it's not lit. That could really be a serious. That's been there for years.
You talking about the lights?
I-10, yeah. What? I mean, should we?
Oh, everybody agrees that it's needed. It's
just the safety aspects.
No lack of trying. It's the issue is what you have an old bridge and putting lights on those and whether they would work, because the earlier ones had vibration and so the bulbs broke, so they did a new plan, but the lighting isn't good enough. It's a design type hang up, and it is frustrating for all of us involved, obviously. It's just not for lack of trying, but the issue, what's going to happen is it's going to come down to how much the city and the parish and Westlake is willing to spend to do it in a way that would pass muster, I guess, with DOTD in Baton Rouge. There's a point where it's already about $450,000. And if that design is inadequate, it gets higher and higher. And your answer may be, well, let's do it, but the dollars keep going up the higher the design standard. But that's why we want to have this brought before you next week so that everybody can be on the same page.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry and Brian. Thank you, Mr. Landry.
I was just going to say that the answer to your planning issue, I think it's been 6 years ago, Brent Clement brought that up. They need to get those permits on the internet. That's been about 6 years ago. And now we've redone our website. I mean, the technology should be there to be able to do that. Not every permit. I mean, obviously some they're going to have to come in, but people should be able to do that. And I don't know where that went.
Just a messenger.
Yeah, I understand, but.
Okay, any other discussion?
Move to adjourn.
Second. Got a motion to adjourn and a second. We are adjourned.